Good morning. Welcome to our devotional this morning. This morning we're continuing in our series on To Love as Jesus Loved. This morning we'll be looking at John 13 verses 34 through 35. John 13, 34 through 35. In this series we're currently looking at the different teachings of Jesus Christ while he was on the earth concerning love, the need to love and the importance of love. This morning we'll be looking at the imitation of love. What I would like us to do is read John 13, 34 and 35. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye love one another. Folks, this is a wonderful teaching from Christ, and I think a lot of times we have a tendency to read over it quickly and not quite understand what's being said. Christ begins by saying, a new commandment I give unto you. And then as we read further, we see the commandment is that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. Now there's many people that are stumped by this verse, and what they say is this: Christ calls to love one another a new commandment. And yet the problem is it's not a new commandment at all. Christ gave us that commandment in his word clear back in the Old Testament. And you can see it in Leviticus 19:18. We're told to love one another. So why would Christ call this command he's giving to his disciples a new command when they've had it all along in the Old Testament? Well, I believe here's why. We can't just stop with the command that ye love one another. We have to take the next phrase as well. When Christ said that ye love one another as I have loved you, that makes all the difference in the world. Before Christ came to the earth, we never had a perfect example to follow of love. So when Christ says that ye love one another as I have loved you, he is giving them a new commandment. He's saying, look, for the first time, you're going to have a perfect example of love on display. As you follow me, as you watch my life, and for us as believers in today's time, as we read about his life, we're going to have the perfect example set for us of what love is really all about. So when the Lord commands us to follow his example, and in doing so we will be showing love to others and love to the Father like we should, that's a new commandment. Back in Leviticus, they didn't have that perfect example to follow, but in today's time we do. So if we always remember, the commandment Christ is talking about is that ye love one another as I have loved you. It makes perfect sense why he would say, this is a new type of commandment I'm giving you. I'm commanding you to follow a perfect example of love. You've never had a perfect example of love before. But now we do. And it's a great privilege to have that example, folks. It's a great privilege for us who live following Christ's first coming to have a perfect example of love on display for each one of us to follow. Once again, that's what this series is going to be about. As we progress farther into the series, we're going to be looking at the life of Christ and how he displayed his love for others. But folks, even before we get into this series in any great detail, we all in the back of our minds know some of the different ways that Christ displayed his love for others. He would heal people. He fed multitudes of people. Many times he would supply material needs, like for example, changing the water to wine. And of course, the greatest act of love that Christ showed for us was his willingness to die on the cross for our sins. Folks, those are all different ways that Christ displayed his love for us. As we go about our day-to-day walk, let's always keep our eyes open for opportunities to love others. And by that I mean let's look for opportunities where we see other people who have needs, and we step up and we're willing to give of ourselves so that another person's need might be met. That need might be material, it might be emotional, it might be physical, it might be spiritual. Anytime that we step up and say, I'm going to give of myself to meet that other person's need and to help them along the way, that's us displaying Christ's love for others. And that's exactly what the Lord would have us to do. Let's set in our hearts today to do that, folks, as we go about our business, seeking to love others as Christ loved us. May the Lord bless you as you study His Word.